Hello, everybody, and welcome to Campus Chatter. I'm Jake Werther, alongside my partner, Allie Overstreet. We've got some great things to talk about today. First, we're going to go over our trip to the Missouri Mavericks. The broadcast crew and I went to the Missouri Mavericks game. We're going to touch on our experience there. Then we're going to talk about the NBA All-Star Weekend, the competitions, the game, and everything you need to know about it.
We're also going to tell you a little story about how Taresanko surprised a lucky little girl on her 11-year-old birthday, and we're going to hit base on McGregor and Mayweather, where the fight's going to happen or not, and we're going to talk a little bit about Darrelle Revis and his recent arrest charges this past weekend. You're listening to Campus Chatter.
You're listening to Campus Chatter, brought to you by the University of Central Missouri on UCM Radio, The Beat.
So the Campus Chatter crew and I had the opportunity to go out to the Missouri Mavericks game this past weekend and broadcast the game along with their broadcast team. We learned a lot. And Missouri Mavericks is a really cool organization. It's a AA hockey affiliate. It's associated with the New York Islanders. And if you're from the Kansas City area and you don't really have a hockey big fan base because the Blues are 3 hours away, this is a great opportunity. If you haven't been to a game, swing by. It's a great atmosphere, great experience. And the crew and I just had a great experience. Allie, do you want to touch on our experience a little bit?
Well, like me being a Blues fan from St. Louis, it's great to just have the Missouri Mavericks about, 45, 50 minutes away from us. Personally, I got to shadow the in-game host MC, and that's what I want to do with my career. So honestly, it was like one of the coolest things I've ever done. I got to follow her underneath the stadium, go back behind like where the locker rooms are. I got to meet a couple of the players. I got to help out with all the behind-the-scenes stuff, the promotional things. There was even a wedding in between the first and the second period, so I got to help set up for that. I got to see the bride firsthand. It was overall just really just once in a lifetime kind of experience. But Jake, you got to sit in on the radio talk show. How was that?
Right, I get to sit up in the announce booth with their professionals, their broadcast team. Really cool experience. Those guys showed me a lot as far as dialogue, when to bring things in, their laptop setups, what kind of game notes they had. It was really cool, and just to see the game from up there, it was a great view of the game, some great action. Like I said, just a great environment overall at the Missouri Mavericks. Like I said, it was a fun experience. Like you said, we got to see a wedding in between the first and second period. That was neat to see that on ice. And the Mavericks just have a lot of engaging, contests and promotions. Fans bring down the ice. They have this cool competition where they have a trophy in the middle of the ice, and the fans in the arena buy rubber hockey pucks and throw them from their seats and try to get them in the trophy. And almost everyone in the arena bought one of these hockey pucks, and there's just thousands of hockey pucks flying towards this cup in the middle. Really cool promotion. Like I said, it's a fun time. It's a cool experience out of the Missouri Mavericks. They're actually one of the best teams in the ECHL, which is the AA affiliate of the NHL. And actually a rising franchise. The franchise is only 7 years old, but one of the best in the league. And like I said, if you get a chance to go out there, really competitive team. They look good that day. They're playing another one of the best teams in the ECHL. And like I said, it's a great contest, great competition, and just a good overall atmosphere too.
Yeah, just something I'll never forget. Like, even though they did lose, and like just being one of the promotions person is sitting up in the crowd, getting to see how they react. Like, one of your main goals is try to keep them engaged, try to keep them upbeat. But I mean, whenever you're losing 4-1, it was a little challenging. Ran into issues, but it was an awesome game to get to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, in a city that doesn't have a professional hockey team, great opportunity for a hockey fan base to enjoy the game they love so much. And we're going to step away for a second. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll tell you about the NBA All-Star Weekend, the competitions, the games, and everything you need to know about it. We'll be right back on Campus Chatter.
I choose red for unlimited possibilities.
I choose red because my family is less than an hour away, but I still get to be independent.
I get to apply my classroom experience to my everyday life. That's why I chose red.
Okay, that'll work. Why do you choose red?
Choose red.
Choose red.
Choose the University of Central Missouri.
Choose red. Kidding, that was a joke.
What if television could sweep us away to another time and place?
Very nice, my lady.
And could take us from the Gilded Age to the Great War. From the heat of the chase to the heart of a queen. No one tells stories like PBS. Give to your PBS station and help bring stories like these to life.
So we're going to touch on the NBA All-Star Weekend that happened this past weekend. Big weekend for the NBA. A lot of stuff happening, their All-Star game and their competitions. First, before we get into it, let's touch on some of the good highlights, because there was a lot of bad. It was bad. But let's talk about the good first. There were some highlights. some great promising things from the competition. The game itself, a lot of people are talking about is the Westbrook Kevin Durant alley-oop there. The two former teammates have since split ways. Seeing some teamwork between them, that was kind of cool. A lot of people loved that. Anthony Davis set a all-star record with 55 points. It was kind of neat to see. And I also enjoyed Christian Porzingis winning the skills competition. I thought that was really cool. Seeing a big man walk away with that, I think that was a neat experience. But there were a lot of concerning things about the All-Star competition, too. A lot of things that kind of turned fans away from a little bit. The game particularly, the final score of the game, the West won 192 to 182.
Yeah, exactly, Jake. In the fourth quarter, fans were screaming, defense, defense, and, the players were shouting back, no, no, no. And, that's one of the main things, with the All-Star games, because really it's just a chance to kind of just showcase your talent, break those records, just go. Some players do go hard. Some players just kind of, at one point, Steph Curry was laying on the court while another player was driving in for a dunk. But it's just things like that there's been a lot of talk with, should they try to bring defense? But then you also face the issue of possible injuries, because the All-Star game, that's not really someplace that you want to get hurt at.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the similar situation to the concern they have for the Pro Bowl. They don't want to go super hard on that for fear of injury. The NBA game, All-Star game, though, it's just as from an entertainment point, it's kind of entertaining. Like I said, we had the Westbrook Durant oop, and then like you said, Steph Curry laying on the floor. That was funny and entertaining. But from a sports standpoint of something that I want to see, a competitive competition, it was bland. It was boring. There was no defense play. They walked to the basket. It wasn't competitive.
I agree. I mean, there were 33 steals, and most of those were just based off of the byproduct of a bad pass. None of it was actually solid basketball. I mean, there are some players who did take it seriously because that's just who they are, but majority of the time it's just to kind of have fun and break records. So I'm curious to see if they do bring some sort of more defense, or maybe a little bit more, amp it up a little bit next year.
Right, if I wanted to see a basketball game where no defense was played, I would watch any other regular season game. But it's just not what we want to see in an All-Star game. We want to see the best of the NBA going against the best in a competition. And I know the injury concern, but it's one game, guys. It's one game. The NBA is a long season. It's one game where that doesn't count for anything that you're going to have to compete. And I think if that doesn't happen, it's going to become like the Pro Bowl, where just nobody cares, nobody tunes in, because nobody's actually playing the game. So I'd like to see the level of competition rise in that. There were some other disappointing points in the weekend. The dunk contest, in particular, people were disappointed with. I think a lot of people went in with the expectation that Aaron Gordon was going to win after him and Zach LaVine tore down the house last year, going back and forth in the finals. A great contest last year. This year, not so much. Fans were disappointed, but I think the most disappointed group of people from this was Intel. Intel sponsors the NBA, and they actually spent a lot of time in the past few months custom building a drone to hold a basketball, lift it up, and drop it for Aaron Gordon. Months in the process. This idea, Aaron Gordon cooked up in Toronto last year for the All-Star game, and they've been slowly working on it since. So this is easily 6 months in the process, if not a year, until custom makes a drone for this occasion, and Aaron Gordon can't make the dunk. Falls flat, just can't do it. And like I said, for Intel, a big sponsor of the NBA, that had to be super frustrating. For the fans, it was frustrating. And, the dunk contest as a whole, there was a lot of misses. At one point, Gordon, in his second attempt, Gordon missed 3 times in the second round. That was disappointing. There was multiple misses in each round. There was kind of interesting with Derrick Jones Jr. being involved this year. I thought that was kind of cool to see the young kid in the contest. He actually did really well, made it to the championship. I thought that was cool. But overall, I thought the dunk contest, like I said, was kind of a letdown with such high expectations for Gordon. Like I said, Intel coming in and making this custom drone and nothing really happening of it.
Well, it's kind of sounding I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but have you ever heard of the Harlem Globetrotters? You know how they just kind of do it for fun. There's not really much defense or anything going on. It's almost like the NBA All-Star Game. I'm not trying to refer it to that, but it could be closely associated to that, more based on fun and not just actual defense. So I'm hoping to see that more and actually taking it seriously and not just trying to amp it up and make it more floofy.
It seems too much to be an entertainment kind of thing and less of a competition or from a sports point of view. Like you said, I think a Harlem Globetrotters is honestly kind of a good comparison because, like I said, it's an entertainment thing. It's not a competition. There's just not that same drive in that kind of game.
There is. I know that the issue of injury is very big though, because once that happens, you're out. Because the NBA All-Star game that has the best of the best. And if you get hurt, that's just a poor situation to have to fall back on and be like, yeah, I played at the NBA All-Star game and I injured myself, so now I'm out for like the actual like season or practices.
And another concern you have to have, if they do push and it does become really competitive and just driving and hard hitting, are coaches and owners going to let their players play in the game? If I'm paying somebody $110 million to play basketball, I'm not going to risk the rest of their season, my championship run in the future of this franchise, on him playing in a game that doesn't mean anything.
I'm also wondering if they could like maybe like try to involve like an incentive. You know, like a lot of these NBA teams, like and players, they have charities that they donate to. Like maybe like, I mean like, not play amped up to where like, you know, charges, like maybe just not worry about those, but like actual defense to where there's actual like competitiveness and like the winner, like that like they win money and it goes to like their charity of that choice. Like that'd be a pretty cool idea to try to like amp it up and even make the crowd a little bit happier. Like, okay, like there's not as much like aggressiveness as we're used to, but like if there's actually an incentive at the end, like it could have a bigger meaning.
You know, and that's, I think a lot of professional sports franchise or sports leagues have trouble finding that incentive. You know, in the NFL with the Pro Bowl, they tried to make a big payoff at the end, but $50,000 to a guy who's making $100 million doesn't really seem much. I know, well, in the MLB it matters where who has a World Series advantage, but it's finding an incentive and trying to make the players play the game to the degree that should be played. And like we said, that's just a hard thing to do in an atmosphere when a game doesn't mean anything, and you have the best players in the world putting their bodies on the line for a game that doesn't affect the franchise that's paying for them and playing. Okay, well, we're going to step away from the break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Blues and a touching story from Taresanko. You're listening to Campus Chatter.
I grew up in a small American farming town. Didn't have a lot. I lived with 7 siblings in a single wide trailer. I just felt like, why couldn't life be better for me? I remember to this day, I turned on the TV and saw Les Mis on Great Performances. The music was so powerful. I believed that I can do that. It truly inspired me. Today I have a full-time career, but I also have a dream, to sing in a prestigious opera company. It takes work, time, dedication. Sharing my love for music with people gives me joy. PBS helped me think anything's possible. Now I really know what I want in life, and that's singing. PBS gave me the confidence to take a chance on myself.
Welcome back. So if you follow the NHL at all, you're very familiar with the name Vladimir Taresanko. He's a big-time player for the St. Louis Blues, and recently he did a great thing for a little girl named Ariana Duggan on her 11th birthday. Vladimir Taresanko went to an auction night and won a trip for 2 to tag along for their Arizona and Colorado away games, and he decided to give it to this little girl on her birthday. The backstory behind Ariana is she has neuroblastoma, and she actually wasn't supposed to make it to her 11th birthday, but she did, and she received this phenomenal gift from Taresanko. She was sung happy birthday by all the players in the locker room, and it was overall just like a great evening for her to have like as her 11th birthday.
And this little girl was no stranger to Taresanko either. These two had met earlier on, I think last season, when they were paired up for a charity event. The little girl and Taresanko were supposed to walk out to the ice together. They became friends and have kept in touch since. And like you said, Taresanko went out of his way at this charity auction, was the highest bidder on these tickets, bid on tickets for his own game, and then brought the little girl in the locker room and gave her the tickets. You know, I think that's just a really touching story and just a real testament to the personality of Taresanko and, you know, the character he holds.
Yeah, so it's just an emotional story overall because, like I said, she wasn't even supposed to make it to her 11th birthday. Like, neuroblastoma is a very serious condition, and, like, just being able to, like, make it to that as an accomplishment itself and then getting this big, huge present from one of her biggest idols is just probably just something she'll never forget and she'll take with her forever. And I know her mom, there's been, like, recent quotes how she's been so touched by this act of kindness because, obviously, her mom's going to go with her, like, with her 11-year-old daughter. But I'm curious to see more news on this whenever she actually does go to these upcoming games because I'd like to see a lot more of this like in the sports world.
Right, you know, it's something, you know, you don't see as much, or if you do, you don't like hear about as much. It's not advertised as much. And it's a really not emphasized as much as it is because you have to remember athletes, no matter what sport you're playing, no matter what franchise, are busy, you know, 200 days of the year. Some leagues are playing 100+ games. They're on the road. They're away from their families. They have to tend to their sponsorships, the public relations. They're doing interviews. They're doing commercials. an athlete's schedule is extremely packed. It's difficult to deal with. And to make time for a little girl and to make time to fulfill somebody's wish of, if a little girl that has cancer, that's just going above and beyond as an athlete. Because like I said, athletes don't have the kind of time that a regular person does. There's, very little block in their schedule, like I said, between training and just the advertising promotion that goes along with being an athlete. The fact that he can fit stuff like that in and that he took the effort to go and put that in his schedule really says something about him.
Exactly, and this is a long-term relationship too. Like Taresanko has known Ariana since 2005 when they met on a Hockey for Cancer camp back then in 2005, and it's just incredible to see how long they've stayed in touch. Like he's made sure she's been okay. She's paid her visits at the hospital for therapy and treatment. So it's just an overall amazing story to hear that he does this, and I'm curious to see like what other stuff goes, like you said earlier, behind the scenes, like if players actually do stay in touch with these kids that they meet at like the charity events. And like I know there's season ticket holders, but you never really know if how they maybe some of those got those through the players because of different things that are going on in their lives.
It's such a cool thing to see too, because you see in the news every now and then you'll see like an athlete hugging a sick child or visiting somebody at the hospital, but that's all you see. It's just they're there, they hug the child, and boom, they're gone. This is cool because it shows Taresanko took the time to stay in touch with this kid. He went out of his way. They have not just in contact once or twice, but had a building relationship over these years. Taresanko said, this is my friend when he introduced the child. Just really cool because, like I said, it wasn't just the one, I hugged somebody, back to my schedule, I'm going to go win a championship. It was more than that.
Because it's scary because, she does have such a very, terminal disease. And, whenever you have so much time left, him just taking the time out of his day to actually make, however many remaining days she has left, the most. Everything she wants, she pretty much, got on her birthday. She couldn't have asked for more. And, her mom even quoted that she hadn't even got home and got the rest of her presents yet. But she said she didn't even think she would care about anything back at home. But it was just great overall because the players actually, when they were in the locker room, they all sang to her too. So it's just great to see that they all supported her and coach as well. It's just a good experience for her.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that that an athlete possesses that much power that can change people's perspective, can change people's mind, and but instead uses it to make that big of a difference in a young person's life. That he holds that much power in society, and like I said, takes the time to use it to make a young fan's life a little bit better. Because like I said, with that much publicity and that much coverage, athletes can kind of say what they want to, direct attention to what they want to. And it's cool when they use that publicity and that attention to do something good like this, and highlight someone who's, in need. All right, we're going to step away for a second. When we come back, we're going to talk about McGregor and Mayweather, the possibility of the fight, what promotion is going to happen, what the pay will be, and just all the mechanics of how this can work and if it will work. So we'll cover that when we come back. You're listening to Campus Chatter.
I choose excitement.
I choose to make a difference.
I choose uncommon opportunities.
I choose Red to experience learning to a greater degree.
Choose Red. Choose the University of Central Missouri.
I support one student in college with a scholarship. Just the way I want to pass on a legacy of education. I would like to pass PBS on to the next generation.
For more information, call 1-800-753-3436.
I like to think that PBS is concerned with our soul. If your soul is in the right place, you're in giving back.
Welcome back to Campus Chatter. So, we said the biggest fight of the century was going to be Mayweather and Pacquiao. That was going to be the fight to end all fights. Those guys walked away with an immense amount of money, a disappointed fan base, but an immense amount of money. Well, we're getting ready for a fight now. It's in the talks, maybe, maybe not, but this will blow that fight out of the water indefinitely. McGregor-Mayweather, mark my words, will be the most talked about, the highest paying. Any boxing match in history will outdo it if this fight happens, and I think it will. I think this fight has to happen. There's so much money to be made with this fight. The Dana White and the UFC have reached out and offered both fighters $25 million to do the fight in UFC. Mayweather, being typical Mayweather, responded, he's a blank comedian. Well, I think Dana White might be a comedian. I think Mayweather's a genius. I think Mayweather can build a fight, can do this trash talk, can turn down offers until he gets what he wants. And he said what he wants is $100 million. McGregor said he wants $100 million. It's hard to make a fight happen when everyone involved wants $100 million. But there is enough potential with this fight. There's so much interest, so much fan interest, that this is realistic. This could happen. And like I said, there's a lot of money to be made with it.
I feel like it's inevitable to happen, too, since there's been so much talk. Like, that's a lot of money sitting on the table for both fighters. And just because there's been numerous encounters with the actual fighters, too, of, like, this is going to happen, like, I'm going to fight you. And, like, it's just bound to happen, like, one of these days, like, soon.
There are some big concerns with it, though. And some people who should be concerned, Dana White, for starters, is sending one of his top stars, his best-selling stars, this is how he sells his pay-per-view, into a match with one of the greatest boxers of our era to probably get murdered in a boxing ring. So what will that do to McGregor's star power in the UFC? If I'm Dana White, I'm concerned about that. I don't want my star to just get destroyed and look like, he's not worth anything. But at the same time, if I'm also Dana White, I know this is going to happen, and I need to make money off of it. So I think that's Dana White's pull, trying to make this happen in the UFC, and I think that's a good idea. Because as much as you have to lose with this if you're Dana White, you might as well make some money off of it. Not that Mayweather realistically has, like, a chance of losing this, because like I said, McGregor's an MMA fighter, not a boxer. But Mayweather has a lot to lose, too. He's 49-0. He's got his legacy on the line. If he walked into a boxing match and lost to an MMA fighter in his sport, that would be the end of Mayweather. And honestly, I think it'd be the end of boxing. UFC and MMA sports are already taking down boxing ratings. Boxing's struggling how it is. I think if a boxer stepped into a ring with an MMA fighter and lost, I think that'd be the end of boxing.
Exactly, and you see this happen all the time, like hot shots go down immediately like that. But we're going to step away for a little bit. We'll be right back to talk about Darrell Rivas and his multiple assault charges. We'll be right back.
Hey, Sarah.
Oh my gosh, she's so cute.
Been doing like I taught you. Love the new tattoo, Sarah.
Dude, that's Sarah. The girl in the pink shirt. That's the girl I was telling you about.
Theater 2 on your left. Hey, Sarah. What color underwear today?
Hey, Sarah. So when are you going to post something new?
Anything you post online, anyone can see. So think before you post.
Live with a human for a while and you get to know a few things. Like, I know she's actually not a morning person. I know she does strange tricks for no treats. I know that water makes her howl like crazy. I even know how the floor stays so clean. She's quick. But the one thing I will never for the life of me know is how she gets so tiny and inside that box. Natalie, how do you get so tiny?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we have reports this past weekend that Darrell Rivas was arrested. Sky is green, grass is blue, and Darrell Rivas got arrested. An NFL player got arrested, That's all we hear in the NFL these days. NFL players getting arrested or get in trouble. But is this one really Rivas' fault? The police report claimed that a man got in the face of Rivas with a phone. Rivas took the phone away from him, getting aggravated that he was being filmed, threw the phone, and then another guy came up with the guy who had the phone. They got in a confrontation, and Rivas just knocked them both out. Rivas' lawyer says that Rivas was jumped by the two men, was simply trying to defend himself, and tried to seek medical attention right before turning himself in.
Yeah, so we have two stories here, like with the 21-year-old and the 22-year-old that say that they were punched. They woke up, but they don't remember who exactly punched them, so that's where it's kind of like the gray line right there. And Rivas claims that he was jumped and that he did not start the altercation, but he did indeed turn himself in prior to that because with the advice from his attorney.
Right, and we see a lot of arrests in the NFL, but this is Rivas' first charge. He doesn't really have a history of this. But it is an interesting situation. The Jets locked him down for 5 years, $70 million through 2020. And he has a $2 million bonus coming this March. So the Jets have the option to void his contract, to cut him. But if they are going to, they need to make that decision before March, unless they're just generously going to give him $2 million, which he's done a lot for the organization, but I doubt the Jets want to do that. So the question kind of stands, should the Jets cut him based on these charges?
I I honestly don't know what to say with this situation because, like, since there are 2 stories behind it, I think they would maybe need to wait. I know they don't only have until March, and that's fast approaching, but maybe kind of see, like, what the next couple of days, like, unfold, like, what happens, what they can get out of Rivas, what they can get out of these 2 gentlemen that were involved in the altercation. But there are bigger situations that happen, though, like rape, drugs. There are, like, actual assault charges that are set in stone, actually happen, and they still keep their contracts. So I don't really agree with those. But with this one, it is kind of like there are 2 sides of the story, so it's hard to dictate whether or not he should keep his contract or not.
And, that's a big question for franchises, and not just the NFL, but all sports, is, if one of your players gets into legal trouble, if he's arrested, if something bad happens, should he stay on the team? Should he be cut? Or if there's one in free agency, should you sign him? We saw this past season. Floyd from the Arizona Cardinals got a DUI, was cut from the team. They're like, we can't have that on our team. They didn't want to deal with it. They cut him, and then the Patriots went out and picked him up. I think it's an issue of winning and money versus morals and what you're going to show to your fan base. I know the Ray Rice situation, that was kind of a different story. I mean, obviously there was abuse in that situation, but they chose to keep him at first, and the fans battled back. They backlashed. They didn't, there was a lot of upset women from that fan base upset with that. So it's kind of a question, do you want to keep good morals on your team? Do you want to set, a precedence for the kids watching? Or is it just about winning, signing contracts, and winning championships?
I feel like if I were a coach, maybe I'm not saying the truth because I'm not in the actual situation, and sports is highly based on money. It is, like, it's the sad truth. But, like, I would base mine on morals. Like, if someone had a DUI on my team, they would not be on my team anymore. And if someone picked them up, that's their problem then. Because there would be a lot of bad rep from the fan base. And that's like, if there were no fans, what's the point of sports then? So I just feel like any type of thing that actually happens where there's solid proof and evidence, it's just like it's a no-brainer for me. But like with this situation, since there are 2 stories, and I know people lie, and like not everybody's going to tell the truth, but with this situation, it would just be a hard one for me to decide whether or not I want to keep him on the Jets or not.
Yeah, and me as a coach or as an owner, I have 0 tolerance for that kind of stuff. Rivas, maybe that was different situations, a little gray, but honestly, no, I'd cut him. I don't want that on my team. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want that in my locker room, in my environment, reaching out with my fan base, interacting with my fan base.
I think a smart move on Rivas' part right now would be to maybe address the media personally, like maybe apologize, kind of tell his viewpoint, maybe kind of be just a little sincere and kind of relate to the fans because that's what people want. They want to be able to relate with like their player, and like if that's someone that they looked up to and then they hear about this, it's just kind of like shut in the face, like, wow, like I never expected this to happen. So if he were to address like his fan base and kind of just like make things a little clearer and put himself in a more positive light, I feel like it can help him in the long run.
I think Rivas can get out of this. I mean, the thing that's hurting Rivas with the Jets situation is his performance this past season. Previously it was Rivas Island. This year was more like the Rivas Resort. Everyone was staying on it. Everyone was there. There were people catching passes over him all the time. So I think that's going to hurt him a little bit as far as working out with the Jets because he wasn't performing as he was last season. But, I mean, it's easy for us to sit here and be like, oh, we think teams should have good morals and they should only sign good, clean-cut players, and money and winning isn't the biggest thing. But let's make this personal for a second for us here in Kansas City. This past season, the Chiefs stumbled upon Tyreek Hill. Greatest thing ever, best thing they found all season. A real gem in the rough. Turned out to be a great returner. Was just all around great for the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill pled guilty to domestic abuse earlier this year. As a Chief, I love having Tyreek Hill on my team. I love what he does for the team. He's great. But if you're going to stick with the morals argument, he was guilty of domestic abuse. So that kind of bleeds to that more gray area when you make it more personal for yourself like that.
Exactly, and some people even touch on that in a personal extent if you're a fan, but then other people tend to just kind of brush it under the rug because he did that, but he's a great player, which is kind of a little messed up if you think about it. But we always preach about morals, but at the same time, we will never understand until we're ever in that situation because sports it's a money franchise. Without the money and that source of income, if you don't have the biggest players to the toughest players, you're not gonna win games. You're not gonna have money come in. You're not gonna have that fan base.
And it's a tough thing for a coach and owner when, like I said, in this situation, Rivas or just any other situations you have, when you have a good player and he goes out or he hits a kid or a wife or punches 2 guys in the face who are filming him. is a tough situation.
And it's also tough whenever you have to kind of rate different kinds of like demeanors, like rape, like fight, abuse, domestic abuse. Like, how are we to tell like which one is worse than the other? You know what I mean? So it's just like kind of situations. Like I feel like that's why we do have like the law system and like the attorney system to kind of help sort this out for us, and like kind of have like the player to be able to shed some more light on it for us too, like through social media.
Right, and I think the players have their own responsibility to hold themselves in public at a higher degree, like Rivas. Okay, well, that's what we have for the Rivas situation, and we're going to wrap up our show. Thanks for joining us on Campus Chatter. Thank you from Allie and I, and from our producers back there, Tyler and Chris, Allison behind the camera. Thank you for all of us, and we'll see you next time.
You're listening to Campus Chatter, brought to you by the University of Central Missouri on UCM Radio, The Beat.